Hello, investors. Welcome back to the Trend Trader, or should I just say Mzansi Investor? No, I'm kidding. We are still in the Trend Trader channel. So today, it's going to be a continuation of the video series that we started in the Mzansi Investor channel. Like I said previously, we'll be bringing some of that content into this Trend Trader channel. That is where we're going to be sharing all the stock market related content. So in this series of dividend investing, we are going to continue on the theme that we took from the Mzansi Investor channel, meaning that I'll be sharing my personal dividend portfolio. So this is not the whole portfolio that I have with its equities. It's just the part of my portfolio that I have allocated for dividend investing. As we showed in that video, in the Mzansi Investor channel, we started around about 48,000, the value of that portfolio. Fortunately for us, it has grown a bit, but we also have about 3 videos there that you can go back and watch. We will leave the link to those videos in the description, and also you will see there in that popping up just at the end of the video, you will see something that you can click that will take you to those videos. Okay, so now the purpose of today's video is to share with you my current positions in that dividend portfolio, to show you how they have grown. It's not by much because it's not a trading account, but that is not just an excuse. It's something that I've just started recently to say that, okay, I will allocate a portion of my capital into a dividend portfolio. So some of those positions I just added on the positions that I had. That will explain some of the low return on investment on some of the positions. But like I said, it's not an excuse. So all the positions that I'll be showing you, they have at least a positive dividend yield, meaning that I expect those companies, for as long as they remain profitable, I expect those companies to declare dividends every time they come up with either interim result or final result, right? Then at the end of the video, I will touch on a company that I'm considering to add into my dividend portfolio. I don't have that company at the moment. I'm still waiting for the technical setup for those stars to align. Once the buy criteria is met, then I will be selling some of my other positions and then allocate capital into that position. So without wasting any more time, let's go to the spreadsheet to look at all those positions and just talk about those companies in brief. The reason I bought those companies, it's not because of the business themselves, it's just due to the technical setup. But since I wanted to spice up my portfolio a bit with regular dividends, then I looked at companies that I already had in my portfolio that has positive dividends, companies that can produce enough income to generate profit, so that the board can, if they wish, declare a dividend. So the reason for buying those companies, it's still a pure technical analysis. It has nothing to do with a fundamental analysis. Although if you go back to those other videos, you will see that I mentioned things such as revenue, profitability of the business, and also the dividend yield, that we are taking that into consideration. Ultimately, the goal of this dividend portfolio is to ensure that I can grow my capital and beat the inflation. At the current rate, the inflation rate is 5% or so. So the goal is to have at least a dividend yield that is greater than the current inflation rate at any period. But that is at the portfolio level, because some companies have a dividend yield that is greater than the current inflation rate, but some positions have a dividend yield that is even close to zero. But yeah, like I said, I just decided to promote some of the companies that I had already have in my portfolio. So let's go there and watch. And then at the end, if you find this content useful, please make sure that you click subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And even if you have subscribed, make sure that you hit that bell notification so that you can get a notification every time we make these videos. Like we always ask, if you have any comments, suggestions, or complaints, just leave them in the comment section. We'll attend to all your questions. You can ask any question related to the stock market. You can ask questions that are related to our dividend portfolio, or just a dividend portfolio creation in general. Now let's go to those portfolio. Okay, like we said, we started this series on the Mzansi Investor channel. You will find it there on YouTube. The name of the channel is Mzansi Investor. You can also subscribe there. We have a couple of videos that we made. So initially we had a video where we were talking about the dividend yield and how sometimes the dividend yield or the use of the dividend yield can mislead you when it comes to stock investing if you're investing for dividends. And then sometime last year we gave a brief review of the dividend portfolio that we had at that time, right? And then we sort of neglected the channel for a while. Then a month ago, we made a video, which was the beginning of this series. So at that time, we were saying that we are building a defensive dividend portfolio. So the purpose of a defensive dividend portfolio is to ensure that we hedge against inflation. As we saw last year, the inflation, it rose up until it reached about 5%. So it's important for us to ensure that we have enough investment to sail that wave of inflation whenever it happens. And then as you can see, every time now we do a dividend stock investing series, we give the value of the dividend portfolio. So we are okay to share this information with you, just so that even the man on the street can see that it's possible to make a bit of money from the stock market. Well, at least if you have an idea of what you are doing, or you think you have an idea of what you are doing. So basically, we just want to track this dividend portfolio with the subscribers and viewers of our channels to make sure that they follow through and to see real life action happening there in the market as the value of the portfolio go up and as when it goes down, and we cover different things on dividend investing. So make sure that you subscribe to the Trend Trader channel, because that's where we'll be continuing. But you can also go back and subscribe to the Mzansi Investor channel so that you can watch the first few videos of that particular series. All right. So now let's look at the current dividend portfolio. So basically, I will just take you to each company. Like I said, the purpose of buying each of these companies was based on technical analysis. And that's the approach that I always use when it comes to investing. I don't buy companies based on fundamental analysis, whether the company are undervalued or overvalued. It really doesn't mean much to me. Whether the RSI is at 10 or the RSI is at 70, again, that does not mean much to me. I just use a pure technical analysis or price action analysis. Okay, so at the moment I have about 5 companies. Let me just count them to be sure. So I have 6 companies in my dividend portfolio. As you can see, I don't think that they are sorted alphabetical order. They are just there. But in that portfolio, I have a Firstrand Limited, there's Remgro Limited, Redefine Properties, Shoprite Holdings, Pepkor Holdings, and Transaction Capital. So each of these companies, like I said, they were bought based on technical analysis, and then the percentage allocation of each company. The initial goal was to make sure that each company is maximum 20%, but the percentage allocation will fluctuate depending on how the share price of each company performs, but also depending on when I bought that company. For some companies, I bought a lot more shares at the beginning, and then I had to trim some of the positions so that I adjust and add into other companies. But this was the last buy transaction capital. That is why it has a low percentage capital allocation. That was because whatever I had budgeted at that particular time, we had exhausted those funds. So now just by looking at this, so you can see the performance of each stock that I have on column D, where I have a return on investment as a percentage there. As you can see, at the current moment, the lowest The lowest return is from Remgro Group. The position is up by 9.08%, which is just shy away from 10%. But the highest performing stock at the moment is Pepkor with a 16.88%, right? So this ROI is just going to keep on fluctuating. Every time the share price fluctuates, then it's going to be reallocated. But what matters to me is that I know where I bought the stock, which is why I have the enterprise here, and then the current price that updates automatically from Google Finance. And then I have a dividend yield of each company. Unfortunately, at some point I had a code to get this dividend yield from Moneyweb, but somehow it seems like the structure of the Moneyweb website has changed a bit. So now I can no longer pull these numbers automatically. So that is why now I have to copy these figures from Moneyweb. So these figures at the moment as they are fixed, meaning that if you watch this video at any time after I've published it on YouTube, it's possible that the dividend yield will have changed. Remember, a dividend yield, it's a function of the dividend that is paid divided by the current share price. So the share price changes every day. Therefore, the dividend yield will also change every day, depending on when you're looking at. So then lastly, we have a ticker, because for me to be able to get this data, I need to tell Google Finance the company that I'm looking for, right? Or even to just get the full name of that company. We can use Google Finance to fetch that information for me, right? So like I said, I don't use a fundamental analysis to pick these stocks, but once I have invested in the company, now I have a position, then I'm interested in knowing what is happening in that particular company. And where do I get that information? I get that information on this website called sharedata.co.za. This is the website that I get there. And for the dividend investors, if you go to etfsa.co.za, you can get a lot more information regarding ETFs. I always go to this website if I want to find MDDs. What's the full word for MDD? But it's like the data sheet that tells you what does that ETF does, including the holdings that ETF has, and also the total expense ratio of that particular ETF. You can get it. It's called a minimum disclosure document. By regulation, each ETF, because they are sold as transparent product, it's important that they make that information available to investors. But I digress. I just wanted to make sure that you understand what kind of information you can get from etfsa.co.za. Okay, so I normally go to Sharedata. If you just scroll there, you can see the latest stock exchange news services on the site. There's a lot of news. If you're interested in news, you can just read those news. But here is just a short form announcement coming from each company. So I already have a position on Firstrand. So if I scroll on this column here and I see something that speaks about Firstrand, then I will stop and look at that particular information to see what is happening in that company, because now I have a position there, meaning I'm an investor. So I'm interested in knowing what is happening. But I don't come here to look at the news, then go and buy a stock. I buy the stock first using technical analysis. Then as I have the position, then now I need to know what is happening, so that if maybe there is a quick change in share price, whether the share price move up quicker or it drops quicker, I need to understand where that is coming from. But also there are some things that you can see on this website. As you can see, it gives you about 5 shares that are up and 5 shares that are down relative to performance. You can just easily see there without even logging into your Easy Equities account or wherever you find information. So for instance, today we know that MTN is trading at 174 Rand per share, and then it grew by 4.74 cents, which translated to about a 2.8% price increase for today. And then you can see the different JSE sectors. You can see the all share index is down by minus 0.16, You can see the resources are also down, but industrial is the one that performed poorly today. And then you can see that the financials are up 0.73%. So Sharedata is really a useful website. I'm using it for free. If you want to dig deeper into information, then they want you to either have an account or to use a subscription services. Okay, then another thing that I can find here, you can get expected result, meaning that, for example, if we're looking at Steinhoff here, they say they have expected result on the 5th of Jan, which is today. So those results are going to be September 2021 final results. Then once I know that I'm expecting those results, then I can search through here to see if there is any kind of result from Steinhoff. But the only thing that I see here is that they are saying that Pepkor Group CEO is stepping down, but you can find all that information in here, all right? So the expected result, that's what you can expect there. And then now upcoming meetings, for those people that are interested in annual general meetings, those are the people that will concern themselves the most with this particular tab. Remember, there is something that they called investor activism. If you're one of those investors that are vocal with the companies that you're invested in, then probably you would be interested in these meetings so that you know which meeting to attend if you're an investor. Remember, you need to be a shareholder of that particular company to attend the annual general meeting. Right, then this is my favorite tab, the dividends pipeline. Basically, what I see on the dividend pipeline at this moment, everything it says a pay date. So I can already see on the 10th of Jan, a lot of people are going to be receiving dividends. One is from Alexander Forbes, Barloworld, Bola Metcalf, Total, the Foschini Group, and other different companies. So that's what I can see here. Recently, we published a short video. We're talking about Barloworld special dividend. So at that time, it was the 4th of Jan. Instead of pay date, it was LDR, meaning it's the last day to trade in order to participate or to receive that particular dividend. So this is another tab that I'm mostly interested in. So at least now you have an idea where I get some of the information that I use in my investing journey, right? So now let's look at each company, what company each company does. So like I said, I get the dividend yield information from Moneyweb. So Moneyweb is another website that I use. Some of the information is free, some of the information you have to pay for. So in this case, we are looking at Firstrand. We know that Firstrand is a banking stock. And this is where I'm mostly interested. This is where I get the dividend yield information. As you can see here, we have this dividend yield of 1.79%, and then show the last dividend that was paid. This is a gross dividend. So the last dividend was about R1.53, and the last date of the dividend was the 15th of September 2021. Right, so this is the information that I'm interested in at this particular moment. But depending on the kind of an investor that you are, you can also get a lot of information from this. You can get information about the PE ratio. You can get information on return on equity, return on asset, the price to net asset value ratio there, so that you can see whether the company is undervalued or overvalued. That solely depends on whether is that information important to you. If it's not important to you, you shouldn't clutter your mind with all the available pieces of information just because it's there. And then another quick information that you can find there. Well, don't say I'm a long-term investor. I hold companies for as long as they are moving on an uptrend. As soon as they stop being on an uptrend, I exit those particular positions. So what you see on that list of the dividend stocks, it's not stocks that I'm planning to hold on forever. I'm going to hold on to those stocks until the stop loss is hit. Once the stop loss is hit, I will exit. But for now, just want to show you here that you can see how the stock has performed at different time periods. So intraday is just 1 day from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on that particular day, how it traded. So you can see on the chart, the stock opened around 61 rand 50 cent, and then now it's after 5, so the market is closed. It closed at about 62 rand 50 cent, so it gained about 1 rand per share, or an increase of about 1.54%. So Firstrand had a good day today, which is good. I'm happy as I have a position there. I can see what happened, but you can see 7 days period, it's up by about 4%, 6 months, it's up about 15%, and over 1 year. So meaning that today is the 5th of January. If you go back to the 5th of January 2021, that is 1 year. Year to date, just from the beginning of the trading year. In this case, the market opened on the 3rd of January 2022. So year to date, this is the performance since the 3rd of January 2022. And then obviously over a 3-year period, you will be underwater by -5%, but over 5 years, you would be up 16%. Then you can do whatever you want to do with this piece of information. To me, it doesn't mean anything. I don't care how the stock has been up. All I care about is where it is at this moment relative to where I bought a particular company, right? And then as we scroll down there, you can see you will find annual reports. So these are the places where you find different tools. Again, I'm just sharing platforms that I use to make investing decisions. So for those people that are inclined to read a report from the companies that they invest in, you can find this here. You can find it on Moneyweb, or you can just go straight to the company website. If you browse there, you should be able to find information that speaks about the annual report or the interim report. Okay, and then as you continue to scroll, there are so many things. Remember, Moneyweb, it's like a newspaper, so they do a lot of advertising as well. It's a newspaper, so you're going to find news. Then there is some information that you can quickly find here. Before even clicking on the annual report, you can find some things like income statement. Again, this it depends on the kind of information that you're looking for. It's not useful for everyone, but it's information that you can find here. So you see an income statement, you can compare between 2 periods, June 2021, which is the final result, and December 2020 interim result. Then you can see how the cash generated, is it increasing or is it not increasing? You can also look at the balance sheet over that 2 period. You can see what is happening there. The assets, are the assets growing or depreciating, whatever it means to you. You can also look at the earnings per share. This is the kind of information that I'm interested in. Once I have the stock, I'm really interested in basically what I want to see here is that on the latest set of results, I want to see the earnings per share increase compared to the previous reporting period. And then I'm not sure if this is a dividends per share. I hope it's dividends per share, because the previous period it was R1.10, and now it's R2.63. Whatever that means, but you can find that piece of information on that website again. Then there at the bottom, this is something that I'll be doing for all the companies that I already own, just in case there's someone who's not familiar with the nature of those businesses, what they are doing. Now we are looking at Firstrand. I said that Firstrand is a bank, so they say that it's a controlling company in the GSE. It's listed under the financial sector. We know that it's a bank, right? And then it's secondary listed in another company. So there isn't much that they are saying besides that Firstrand is the holding group or the holding company of Firstrand group of companies. There are so many companies underneath this company, and then here you can go to the website of Firstrand if you want to dig in deeper to get more information about Firstrand. So remember, Moneyweb is one of the websites that I use. The other website is Sharedata, where I normally get the stock exchange news services, right? So now we have a bit of information, background information on Firstrand, what it does, the dividend yield. You can find information regarding the balance sheet, income statement, and any other information that you can find to be useful, okay? I also have a Remgro position. Remgro is another holding company. It's a diversified company. There are banks underneath. Remgro actually owns, maybe the holding could have changed, but it owns about 30% of Firstrand. They also have a stake in Mediclinic. They have a stake in Green Road. It's a lot of companies where Remgro is invested. If you want to find all those companies, you can go to remgro.com to find that information. So here we can see that this group interest consists mainly of investment in consumer product, banking, healthcare, insurance, industrial infrastructure, as well as media and sport. So this is a really diversified company. I'm happy to hold it. It's one of those companies that is able to generate profit year on year, just because they are diversified. If one sector is not performing well, it's possible that another sector is performing well. But some investors, they have an opinion with regarding investing in holding companies. Sometimes it's not easy to determine the value of that particular company, because sometimes the net asset value is calculated as sum of the part, which is not easy. Sometimes the management also just declare whatever a number that they have in mind to say it's the net asset value of that particular company. But if there is something that I would say interests me on this, well, we can see that earnings per share grew from R2.21 to R6.28, which is good. And this again, let's just assume that the DPS is dividends per share. So we can see that there is a 60 cent increase in terms of dividends. So I'm happy with those. Again, you can find the annual report and also the growth of that particular company. In this case, we are looking at Remgro. As you can see, in the last year, 2021, the stock was up by about 40%, which is good, right? Another company that I want us to look at is Redefine. I have a position on Redefine. Redefine is a real estate investment trust. They invest in property, different kinds of property. They have local direct health, retail, office, and office space. They also have industrial properties, right? And also they have local and offshore. Offshore, they have property assets in Poland. You can also find the information on the Redefine website. Well, this company, I held it for most part of 2021. The share price was just moving sideways. During the first interim result, they didn't declare a dividend. As you can see here, we're looking at 0. But in August, they declared, with the August final result, they declared a 60 cent dividend per share. So fortunately, because I was able to hold on to this company, my patience paid off. I mean, I was bullish. I'm still bullish on the property sector. But yeah, I just wanted to keep on holding on to that, because at some point I was expecting that eventually the company is going to be profitable. It's not that it was not profitable. They stopped paying dividend because of the COVID-19 scare. So they had to relook at their books to see if they can survive with COVID-19 in the midst of our lives. So now let's see how it performed over 1 year. It's also up 40% there. So I made a bit of money. I think this I got in somewhere before the end of 2020. So I was able to get that 40% growth from this company alone, even though if you look at the return on investment on it, it's just about 9%. That's because I bought more when I decided to upgrade this company from a trading stock into a dividend stock. Right, everybody knows Shoprite, what Shoprite does. You can wake up anyone at night, they will be able to tell you what Shoprite does. But basically, Shoprite is invested in food retailers and wholesale. They're also listed in some other companies, but the less said about investment outside South Africa, the better. We saw that some companies that went to invest in Nigeria, they experienced a lot of challenges at some point. MTN couldn't take back some of the profit they had to list in the Nigerian stock exchange. It's just a lot of issues in different countries, depending where that company is listed. Some countries, they don't have a lot of strict regulations. I believe Namibia is one of those companies that operate similar to South Africa. If you think South Africa is strict, then it means Namibia is strict. If you think South Africa is relaxed, it's possible that Namibia is also relaxed a bit. But yeah, countries differ, but we know what Shoprite does. We see Shoprite every day. I didn't buy Shoprite shares because I know what Shoprite shares does. The share price it gave a nice entry based on technical analysis, and I was able to buy up a lot of Shoprite shares. Fortunately, the company continued to be profitable. Even during the time of COVID-19, the company continued to pay dividends. You see, December 2020, they paid a dividend of R1.91. And then in July, they increased that. That's about a fourfold increase. They increased it to about R5.40 dividend per share. Remember, it's gross dividend today. So it's one of those companies that has a tendency to perform much, much better. For year 2021, the stock was up 62%. So if you held this company for the whole year, you would have made a reasonable amount of money. But remember, this is all in the past. We don't know what the future holds for us. A lot of things can change, but at the moment, if we look at what happened previously, the stock is up 62%. And like I said, it's one of those stocks that is a consistent dividend payer. So I'm happy to have Shoprite in my dividend portfolio. Then let's look at Pepkor. Pepkor, it's a subsidiary company of Steinhoff. Again, the less said about those transactions, the better, because it ended in tears for some investors. Basically, Steinhoff is a foreign-owned company. They started buying some of the companies, including Pepkor. And some of those transactions, there was some issues with them. So like I said, the less said about those transactions, the better. But Pepkor, now the way that you know it, they own a Pep store, they own Ackermans. Well, Pep Home is a new company. We just know Pep as it is. It's a low-cost retail for most people. It's targeting low-income earners, so we know what they stand for. They also own F.I.R.E Corporation. At some point, they owned John Greig. I don't know if John Greig is still a store today, but it's a different companies. As you can see, they say that they focus, the segment that they focus on is on discount value and specialized goods. They are in retail clothing, general merchandise, household goods, furniture, appliances, consumer electronics, building materials. There's a company, I think it's called not Home Depot. Home Depot is an American company, but it's Buco. Yeah, so building material, Buco falls under Pepkor in the building material sector. They do have a cellular product. If you are familiar with Flash, the airtime that we buy in the townships, it's also part of Pepkor. Then they also offer different financial services. I'm not sure if you can now buy clothes. I know on Ackermans you can have a credit account. It would be a shame if they bring that credit account into Pep, given that it's a discount store, it's targeting low-income earners. So we don't want people to be burdened with debt. But we know that some of the other stores, they do offer these kinds of credit services, right? And then financial services, they also do a bit of logistics. You know, at PEP, you can do a bit of packs. You can send your parcels via packs. So yeah, that's what Pepkor does. Pepkor, 80% of Pepkor is owned by Steinhoff. I know sometime last year, Steinhoff sold a bit of those shares to pay some of its debt, but the majority shareholder of Pepkor remains Steinhoff. Personally, I prefer to have Pepkor in my portfolio rather than Steinhoff. For trading purposes, yes, I can trade Steinhoff because there is just a price action. Nothing personal. It's not a long-term relationship that I want to have with the stock. My holding period exists between my stop loss and the take profit level. But yeah, just to keep at the back of your mind that Steinhoff is a majority shareholder of Pepkor. Like I said, Pepkor also paid a dividend sometime after October. That was 44 cents. They didn't pay a dividend in March. Sometimes holding a good company based on strong fundamentals and also supplemented by a chart, you can sit out a period where you don't receive dividends in anticipation that in future the company is going to recover and pay you some dividends. But you need to make a smart decision and try to time the market. I know some people, they believe that you can't time the market. I'm on the opposite spectrum. I believe that I can time the market. So for last year, 2021, the stock is up 72%, which is impressive, despite the fact that at some point they didn't pay a dividend. So we'll see from now on where this is going to go. Keep in mind that Steinhoff is also moving in the right direction at the moment. They are able to deal with some of the litigations that were sent to them. All those claims, they are able to process some of those claims to pay some of the claimants. One of the big claimants is the guys from Digitown. I think now they've reached an agreement, which is good. So I expect Pepkor to continue to trade higher. And then lastly, the last company that I want us to look at is Transaction Capital. Transaction Capital, they are in the fleet. Well, it's a company that offer credit or financial services to different companies. One of their subsidiaries is SA Taxi. So most of us Black people, we have used a taxi. Some of us still use taxis. So SA Taxi, it funds those taxis. At some point, they sold 25% stake to Santaco through a BE transaction there. It's a bit of a complicated transaction, but long story short, Transaction Capital owns SA Taxi, which has a joint ownership with Santaco, and they are in the taxi business. Outside the taxi business, they also have an interest in we buy cars. For those people like me who cannot afford brand new cars and we buy skorokoros or used cars, we normally buy cars at We Buy Cars, or you want to sell your car, you can sell your car at We Buy Cars. So those are the main companies that they have. I'm not really familiar with Transaction Capital Risk Services. I would imagine that maybe it's possible that it's an insurance company for the taxi guys or something else there, but you can find all that information on their website to see what they're talking about. Transaction Capital has been one of the star performers. Like I said, we are looking at the past. We don't know what the future has in store for us. As you can see, they've managed to pay dividends. March 21, there was a 19-cent dividend. September 2021, the final result, they paid a dividend of 52 cents. So, which is good. Even the earnings per share are improving from 63 cents in March to about 340 cents in September, which is good. I'm happy with that. And then the performance for the past 1 year, the stock doubled in value. It grew from about 20-something rand to about 47 rand per share, which is good. One thing to keep in mind, a stock is never expensive. Well, depending on your belief, a stock is never expensive. If a stock can go up by 100%, there's nothing that can stop that stock from going up by another 100%. So don't stop buying companies simply because you heard that the share price has doubled and you think that the share price hasn't doubled. Remember, there are people that invest for multi-baggers. Some people are looking for 5 times or even 10 times return. So if for a stock to give you a 10 times return, it means that the share price has to appreciate by 1,000%. So that's one thing that you should keep in mind, right? So these are the companies that I currently have in my portfolio there. There isn't much to say there. Like I said, if we look at the performance of the portfolio, we started publishing that video somewhere around November. We gave the starting price there, which was about, well, we started at about 49,000 or so. Yes, we started at 49,800. So that should be the beginning of that balance. But as you can see, for the past 2 months, we managed to grow to about over 60,000 rand, the total portfolio value. We don't know how far it's going to grow, so we're just monitoring that. At the moment in December, from November to December, end of November to end of December, it only grew by 3%. So right now in January, it's currently up by about 3.78%, but you are still at the beginning of the month. Anything is possible. It can grow or it can fall a bit. Anything is possible. Then we're also recording some of the dividends that we are getting. For most of the companies, we are recording a net dividend, but for a company like Redefine, which is a real estate investment trust, they don't do dividends, they do distributions. So they do not subtract that 20% dividend withholding tax. When as an investor, you are responsible to pay SARS that 20%. So for Redefine, it wasn't, they just paid that full 60 cents per share. You didn't have to subtract that 12 cents. But remember, you still owe SARS that 12 cents per share. So the dividends that we received in 2021 in November, we just received a marginal 49 rand dividend, but money is money. Yeah, we would like to receive more than that, but that's what we received. December was much better because we had a bit of money from Redefine. We got about 1,400 there, and also we got a small amount from transaction capital. As also, we don't have a large position there. So for January, I'm not expecting any dividends because the companies that I currently own won't be paying dividends in January. So in some months, it's going to be a dry spell. I won't be receiving dividends, but it is what it is. I'm not interested in buying all the companies that are listed in the exchange. Maybe in future, I may look for companies that can pay me dividends on a monthly basis, but as of today, where we are sitting, I'm happy with the 6 companies that I have. I'll be receiving dividends if and when they pay them. So if there are months where I don't receive dividends, it's fine. I can live with that. So that brings us to the end of that existing dividend portfolio. But remember, at the beginning, I said that there's a company that I'm looking to buy. So that company is Coronation Fund Managers. I've been tracking this stock for a while. I started noticing the stock last year in 2021. As you can see, they are consistent dividend payer. They pay dividends every 6 months. All the Ds, they represent dividends. So if you look at 2018 there, they paid a dividend of about 2.23 rand. When the share price was closer to its lowest, they paid a dividend, a gross dividend of 1.78 rand. And then recently they paid a dividend of 2.26 rand. So now, remember, I trade a lot. So what you see here, it's a pattern that is called a cup and handle. So basically with this pattern, we normally see the price, then it sets a large range and then starts to form a smaller range there. So the level where this resistance becomes is called a neckline. So what happens here, or what we want to see the share price break above this neckline. If the share price closes above this neckline, that will give me a buy signal. Then I will buy a Coronation Fund. Based on the current resistance level here, I'm looking to buy Coronation Fund once it's above 57 rand per share. Then what happens once the share price break above the neckline? 2 things can happen. The share price can just break and then continue to trade higher, moving further up. Or sometimes it happens that the share price can break above this level, come back to retest it before it continues to trade high. So you've got a chance to buy exactly when that breakout happen, or you can buy when the retest is happening there. So I don't have a position yet on Coronation Fund Managers. It's a position that I'm looking at on the side. I'm waiting for that price confirmation. At the moment, the share price is at 55 rand 37 cent. So I'm just waiting for it. But in your mind, if you are thinking that I should just buy, remember, even here, the share price, it came to test this neckline, finishing the handle part, but the share price then it started to break down, coming back to this level, about 45 rand per share. So ideally, personally, I prefer to wait for a confirmation. A confirmation is nothing but just a share price closing above that level. Then that gives me confirmation that the neckline has been broken. And then as you can see, this recent top here corresponds to about 85 rand per share. So that will be the potential reward that I'll be looking at in terms of share price. Then depending on where I will set my stop loss, I don't want to set my stop loss at this moment. Probably the stop loss is going to be somewhere around 50 rand per share. So as you can see, this trade is going to yield about 1:3 to 1:4 risk to reward. It's not a prediction. We are waiting for the confirmation. If you get a confirmation, then we jump on the stock. I'm not going to buy the stock until it has met these requirements. So this is one of the ways how I'm finding my dividend stocks. I don't go around looking at what Coronation Fund Managers does, as much as I have an idea of what it does at the back of my mind, because I've been trading stocks for a while. I know what some of the businesses do, but I'm not interested in looking at the company fundamentals to make a decision whether I should buy a stock or I shouldn't buy stock. I first need to get a buy signal from the technical setup. Once I have the signal, then I can now go back to the financials and look what that company does, what I can expect based on its performance there. And even if I find that the financials are bad, I won't exit that position. As long as the technical setup remains, I will hold that. If I do buy at 57 Rand and the share price happen to drop and come and close below my stop level, then I will exit that company. It wouldn't matter whether the company has strong fundamentals or what. I don't care. It's not a criteria that I use to buy companies. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you today. The current dividend portfolio that I have, the 6 companies that I have there, and also to share with you some of the dividends that I have received. Like I said, these companies, I have Firstrand, Remgro, Redefine, Shoprite, Pepkor, Transaction Capital. This is my current dividend portfolio. At some point, I might add Coronation fund managers, depending on whether it does meet my buy criteria. And also I shared some of the websites that I use to find information. I said I use Sharedata to find new services, and also I use a Moneyweb to find different information about each company. Right. So now, if you haven't subscribed on the Trend Trader channel, make sure that you subscribe there on the Trend Trader channel. We have a lot of videos. We'll be uploading more videos. Subscribe, hit that bell notification. As you can see, you can connect with us on Twitter. You can also connect with us on Facebook and Instagram. Well, we are not busy that much on Instagram. Pretty much we are busy on Twitter there, because we upload chat, we speak to other investors. As you can see, like we said, we are bringing everything. And if you missed this video where we're talking about these companies that can pay you dividends, you can go to that video, watch that video there and find. And if you're interested how much money I made in 2021 trading stocks from July 2021 to December 2021, we have a video there where I detail the trades that I took, and then we look at the performance of that particular portfolio. And if you're interested in real estate investment trust, we have a video there. Make sure that you subscribe. You watch those videos. That's the only way that you can have an understanding of how in this channel we choose stocks that we invest in. And for everyone that just wants to build that passive income using ETFs, we have a video there. We share the ETFs that you can buy in order to receive that passive income. These are low cost index tracking ETFs. You can invest in these ETFs at the lowest total expense ratio that you can think of. One of the ETF has a total expense ratio of 0.03%. Basically, you are getting it for free. Well, 0.03, you are still paying, but it's really minimal. Nobody can complain at that value. So that's it for today. I hope that you found this video useful. You got some information out of it. If you did, make sure that you give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, but you've been watching the channel, it means that you're finding this channel interesting, you find the information useful. Do consider subscribing and also hit that bell notification so that you don't miss all the videos that we'll be making in future as we track this dividend portfolio. Till then, I will see you on the next video.